I'm Stephanie. Most of you guys probably know me from work camp, or you know my brother. He used to go here. But to just give you a little background on what I'm doing right now, I'm currently a sophomore at Cornell University, and I'm studying chemistry to eventually, hopefully, be a doctor. So I'm also very involved in the campus ministry there, which is called Crew. Most of my friends are in Crew, and something kind of significant that's happening in my life right now is in the spring I'm hopefully getting baptized. I'm working with Gary right now to kind of make that happen because I wanted to do it here. But I mentioned those things about my life right now because, like Jeff said, Gary wanted us to talk about our legacies and what that might mean for you guys. And I just wanted to reiterate what Gary said about the fact that neither of us have our lives completely together, and like there are always going to be a lot of struggles and stuff like that. Just kind of saying that I hope you can learn something from my experiences, and then also I just want to extend the invitation to add me on Facebook or talk to me, because I wouldn't have been able to make it to where I am today without people that were there for me, that believed in me, that invested in me, and that ultimately led me closer to Christ. So, just to go into my story. Growing up, my family went to church, but it was kind of an inconsistent thing, and religion was always very much a Sunday-only type of thing. We never really talked about it at home, and honestly, I never even heard the gospel until I was 13 and we moved to GBC. And it was only after coming here that I learned that you needed to believe in Jesus to be saved. And I think this idea scared me a little bit because I didn't know what it meant to believe in Jesus or whatever. And I remember hearing Gary say over and over again on Sundays that Jesus died for my sins, but I had no idea what that meant, and I didn't really understand what the big deal was. Like, all right, cool. But I told myself that it was all right. I thought I believed it more as kind of a fact for my life and just a concept, and I thought that was enough because I thought that's what believing in Jesus meant. And when high school came around, I kind of got very involved in school. I've always been a very academically driven person, and I kind of shaped my life around that in high school. I really wanted success. I wanted to be the girl with straight A's, and then I wanted to eventually go to a good college, and that's what I focused on and what I directed my life at. I wanted people to respect me, and I wanted people to look up to me, and because of that, that's also kind of why I didn't get a lot out of church on Sundays, because I kind of came with the knowledge that I was smart and I didn't really need anything else. So it never really occurred to me what that meant eternally and what the significance was behind that, because there really was none. Like, think about that. If you're just living for school, what's behind that? There's nothing. It's empty. And on a broader scale, what does that mean about like what I believed about the world, or what life was, or where I was going? And like those seem like huge questions, but they're important because they direct how you live your life. And those are things I never thought about because I was very focused on the short-term pursuit of success. And the only thing I really couldn't shake and reconcile with myself was kind of the nagging sense that I was missing something. Because I was forced to come to church on Sundays. So I did see people like Gary and people, other kids around me and adults that I could tell were very passionate and really loved this God person that we talked about a lot. And that just really didn't make sense to me. And that's what bothered me because I felt like I was missing something. And I if I was going to know everything, and if I was going to come to church and look at people and be like, I know better than you, then I felt like I needed to understand at least what they were doing, and the prospect that I might not was very confusing to me. So I wanted to kind of try and understand that a little bit. I knew I was supposed to feel very emotional and like passionate when we took communion, or like very deeply moved, but I never did, and I didn't know what I was missing. And I realize now it's because although I heard the gospel and I thought I believed it as a fact, I never really embraced its implications for my own life. So, as Gary said, I've been very involved in work camp for the last few years, and my first year was after my sophomore year of high school, and I really don't know why I signed up. I had no friends at church, no friends that were going. Rachel's my friend now, but we weren't friends then. So the only reason I can really find is that it was God's way of calling me towards Him, and kind of the faith that I had always been very distant from. And so I signed up, and I was very resentful of the fact that I had signed myself up, because I didn't really know why. You can ask a few of the people that went with me my first year: Rachel, Mark, Eric. So I was pretty bitter, pretty cynical. I kept to myself. I was angry, and I wanted to leave. So for those of you that haven't been, work camp is a Christian organization in the summer where it's you fix up people's homes during the day, but beyond that, it's kind of like a time for you to fellowship with other Christians, and there's a speaker at night, and you learn a bit about the gospel and stuff. So it was there that I finally began to kind of understand the resurrection and why that was important, and why it led people to act, as I saw it, crazy. And I kind of learned there, and that God was real. And before, he'd always been very this abstract type of thing, kind of something to fall back on as a comfort. But I think the reason it was so real to me there was because I could see it. Like, I was completely surrounded by these people that were so passionate, and I could just tell I could just tell that they loved God. And it's kind of at this point that I accepted the gospel and kind of started begin to understand this love for myself. And it's at this point that I want to ask you all a question. I don't know where you are in your respective faiths, or what you believe, or what role you even allow God to take in your lives. But think about this for a second. Imagine that it was a solid, concrete fact that there is a living, omnipresent God that, in order to redeem you, came to earth as a human, suffered, and knowledgeably, choiceably died for your sake, so that you do not have to. Imagine for a second that is a widely accepted societal fact. Now realize that it's true, and think about what that would mean for your life, for your passions, for your priorities, and for your perspective. And it's this perspective that I was lacking when I went back to high school in the fall. Although I had accepted Christ, I had not yet allowed myself to truly become transformed by the gospel, as we are called to do. And although I believed in Christ, I didn't understand any of the questions that I asked you, and I didn't even consider them. And I didn't grasp that this belief had any immediate implications for the way I was living my life. And as junior year started, I kind of began to get sucked into the typical high school things. I'm going to be honest with you all, I was going out and drinking and doing things that aren't Christian and you're not supposed to be doing. And it's not that I didn't know that, it's just that I didn't understand, like, what's so bad about it? What's the big deal? And to be honest, it's fun. If sin wasn't appealing, there wouldn't be a problem. And I knew that I had believed in Jesus, so I didn't think I needed to change anything. So just kind of day by day, that knowledge kind of began to slip a little bit further away from me, and it kind of became more of an abstract fact again. But during this time, I wasn't really happy. And even though, going to parties or hanging out with guys or whatever, that's really fun in the moment and it's great. But ultimately, I wasn't ever really happy. And every pleasure that you can get from those things were very momentary. And at the end of the day, I realized I still had no answer to my question, what am I living for? And it wasn't really until I became a staff member at work camp that I finally understood what it meant to live for Christ and why that's important. And it was at this point that I kind of got a little bit closer to a lot of staff members, like some of you probably know Nina Hallisey, and Elise, if any of you guys have been there. Those girls really poured into me and kind of helped me to see what Christ had done in their lives. And if you've ever met either of them, you know what amazing people they are and how much they love the Lord. And it was at this point that I made an active decision to turn from my lifestyle and surrender it to God. And this is where kind of the legacy part of my story begins. To go back to the question I asked before about what it would mean for your lives if you knew 100% that the gospel is true, I'm going to go to Colossians 3. If then you have been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your mind on things that are above, not on things that are on earth. For you have died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. Put to death, therefore, what is earthly in you: sexual immorality, impurity, passion, evil desire, and covetousness, which is idolatry. On account of these, the wrath of God is coming. In these too you once walked, when you were living in them. But now you must put them all away. Do not lie to one another, seeing that you have put off the old self with its practices, and have put on the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge after the image of its creator. So that was really long, but the Bible tells us that our job as Christians is to live with Christ. And what that means is to live in a Christ-like way, to follow all these Christian things in the Bible because we believe that we died with Christ and our sin died with Christ. So the implication of that, and the answer to my question, is that it means we must live with him as well. And that means turning from our sin, choosing to ignore what is earthly, and seeking after what is spiritual and holy, which is God himself. My problem was that I kept waiting to want to change, to want to stop doing the things I was doing, the things that everyone else is doing. I wanted it to be a dramatic, life-changing moment. And it was when I accepted Christ, but it doesn't end there, and that's what I didn't understand. Just because I accepted Christ didn't mean that my journey and my pursuit of an ultimate legacy was over. It wasn't, and it can't be. The Bible tells us that we grow in the knowledge of our own salvation after it happens. And I think that's in 1 Peter, but I'm not sure. In order for that to happen, you have to pursue Christ, and that's a choice. It's not just something that you're going to magically want to do one day, and it's not something that's going to be easy ever. And sin is fun, and that's the truth. But it's also not fulfilling ultimately. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. It's not going to bring you happiness. It's not going to bring you true joy, which is what God promises if you follow him. The problem with sin is that it's damaging because it separates us from a perfect and sinless God. I had to choose to separate myself from parties, from drinking, and from dumb relationships with boys. And it wasn't because it wasn't appealing and it wasn't fun, because it was. But a joyful life with God was a choice that I made because I realized in the end that it's so much more fulfilling, and that's where the faith part of Christianity comes in. So that was a lot, but my challenge for you to consider is for you guys to consider your own lives and what you're looking for. What are you searching for, and what do you want from this life? Are you looking for happiness, for fulfillment, for success, for love? Because all of those things can be found in a relationship in Christ and in a life that pursues him every day. But that's a choice. And it's not easy, but I promise you guys that it's worth it.